Hey everybody, welcome to the Celebrating the Brand Ambassador. I'm really excited to have with me today. I have with me Martin Hudak, right? Am I saying that correctly? I should ask you that before we started, but good. He is the global brand ambassador for Mr. Black right now currently sitting in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm also with James Irvine, former brand ambassador for Four Pillars, now the creative director for Four Pillars. And we're going to find out exactly what that actually means. So gentlemen, I'm very excited to have you here with me. My tonight and your morning. How are you?
G'day. Good morning. I'm good. It's never too early to start. I'm sitting at my home bar with a coffee cocktail in honor of Mr. Martin Hudak sitting in Melbourne. And it seems as though we've just traded places in the role of the BA. We've changed cities for you this morning. So thanks for having me. Good to see you, Martin, as always.
Yeah, likewise. Good to see you. What a coincidence, no? I just left Sydney like literally a few hours ago. I'm in Melbourne. You are back there, and luckily we have a coffee or coffee cocktails to be awake in such early hour.
I was gonna say, well, it's 7 o'clock for me, so it's already cocktail hours. So I am drinking the appropriate Negroni.
Nice.
Hey.
To celebrate this evening. All right, so I always like to start off with this first question, which is basically, I already said your job title, but feel free to expand. And then all the responsibilities that come with your job. And feel free to expand on all of it. You don't need to go short in this part because everybody's job is different. Everybody's roles and responsibilities are different. And I think most brand owners sometimes don't understand how expansive this role can be. So, and also for people looking to become brand ambassadors, sometimes they don't understand all the things that can be involved underneath this role. So Martin, I'm going to start with you.
All right. I mean, look, it's pretty hard to describe my job because we never had a global coffee ambassador or ambassador for modifiers such as coffee liqueur, like in history, never. And I was the first one back in 2018. I remember when the founder of Mr. Black, Tom Baker, gave me a proposal, put a paper on the table. Even he didn't know what we should do because it's such a young brand, considering where we are now and how, good we are. It's still young, 9 years. And it was weird to kind of shape the role and tell me like, okay, this is it. And that's what you have to do because we didn't know.
Right.
So it was pretty open from beginning for him and as well for myself, never being a brand ambassador before. It was pretty open. And it was sort of like a trust between each other. So whatever we do is for good cause of brand, and a coffee cocktails as a category. And even till nowadays, I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Well, tell me some of the things you have like in the role, like some of the things you have had to do because of the role. I'm assuming trainings, right?
Yeah. So Tom told me from the beginning, you are the brain of the brand. You are the brain. You are the face. You are basically, he didn't say that, but I like to refer, you are George Clooney for Nespresso. I'm a Martin Hudak for Mr. Black.
What an amazing title to get.
Yeah, I wish to be him, the amount of money he must get paid. I'm joking. So my role is a global brand advocacy, or basically I have to go around the world and not necessarily do sales part of the business, but I have to do this brand advocacy kind of a knowledgeable part where I have to train people such as baristas and bartenders, sometimes trade, sometimes just, normal public coffee aficionados. So yeah, usually opening up new markets. Since I started with the brand, we open up 17, 19 states in US, 15 European countries, 7 Asian countries. So I have to go to that country, work with the distributor, do the training for them, then make sure they love us, because of course distributors work in other thousands of brands, so why they should love us. So it's really all about me and my energy and the product. And then we usually do a trade masterclass and training for local bartending community, and then we end up with a local guest shift. And this is kind of the formula which works anywhere around the world, wherever I travel. And then of course you have festivals, trade shows, tastings and competitions and stuff like that.
Sounds pretty perfect to me. It sounds like a pretty good gig.
Oh yeah,
I like it. And you get to stay awake the whole time. I mean, you have caffeine, you know, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, look, I love Mr. Black, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I wish to be ambassador for, I don't know, tequila or whiskey or gin. Because yes, you get hangover, that's one thing, but on the other hand, you won't sleep because you get so much caffeine intake, right? And Mr. Black is real coffee.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, I get to the hotel room at 4 a.m. and my heart is just pounding so fast, and I should sleep for at least a few hours before another flight. But I'm like, oops, I can't. So not only you're a little bit tipsy here and there, you already are awake. So
wow.
I would say I became a nocturnal animal. You know, I'm the guy who never sleeps.
Oh, that's amazing. I need that. But I totally get that. It is nice to have a kind of a balance between other things, and you do need to get some sleep. I love it. James, so tell me a little bit about, wait, you were the brand ambassador and now you're the creative director. So maybe a little bit of like what you did as the brand and then like what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on, Elaine. I got to say, to start off with, Martin is the perfect BA for a cold drip coffee liqueur brand, because he literally is the Energizer Bunny of our industry. And it's just like, it's two peas in a pod. There's a great Aussie expression. I'm not going to piss in his pocket too much, but this bloke has so much going on in his life. So he's obviously got, you know, his global Mr. BA for Mr. Black, but he also has his fingers in many pies here in Sydney with some awesome cocktail venues. And we actually just finished a 3 and a bit month boxing campaign where we did a charity amateur boxing bout together, not against each other, but we did the campaign with each other. So he's a very busy human, and you know, he's actually a good mate of mine as well. So thank you so much.
Oh no, and I can see all the awards. I wish to accomplish that, you know, at that age. I'm like, I've already passed that a long time ago, and I'm like, wow, I have to catch up. So and I want to hear more about the boxing, but first I want to hear about you.
Yeah, cool. So my role is creative director of gin drinks for Four Pillars Gin. It's quite an esoteric title, because a lot of people think that when you look at a gin distillery, all you do is drink gin. However, we have many side hustles at Four Pillars that we can talk about today as well. But I joined the Four Pillars team unofficially about 6 years ago, where I made a collaborative gin with a couple of venues that I was the beverage director for here in Sydney. Oh, wow. And then it was quite an organic relationship. I sat across the galley from my now boss, Stu Gregor, on our way to Tales of the Cocktail, and he hates it when I tell this story, but it's a 16-hour flight.
Tell the story, because I like poking Stu. It's fun.
It's a 16-hour flight from here in Sydney to Dallas, and then another 90 minutes to New Orleans from there. And we were flying an airline that you had to pay for beers, and they only took cash, and he didn't have any local currency on him. So I bought him a beer, and he's like, "Thank you, mate." And I knew who he was, of course, because he hosts the Australian Bar Awards and all that here in Australia. And there was little old me, 25-year-old, bright-eyed, bushy-tail, heading to Tales of the Cocktail. And he literally turned over, said thank you, and he goes, "So who are you?" And from there, it became a really organic friendship. And then, you know, we made a gin together, and a couple of years later they offered me a job, and it was a brand ambassadorial role for Four Pillars Gin, which is an Australian craft gin distillery based in Victoria, Australia. And I took the opportunity with both hands. And one thing I never wanted to deter from, and this is actually where Martin and I are quite similar, we both still work very much so within the hospitality industry, within our own venues now. That was something I never wanted to lose. Hospitality was, and it still is, a massive passion of mine, and I absolutely adore the drinks industry. And the one thing I saw that working with a great Australian brand like Mr. Black or Four Pillars is you get the opportunity to see how other people operate, what they're working on, the creative processes in their venues as well. So it's been an absolute wild ride. In my time at Four Pillars, I haven't been around for the whole tenure. We turned 9 this year. We turned 9 in December, so I've seen exponential growth in great markets beyond Australia as well. So There's a great Australian airline called Qantas who use the tagline "Spirit of Australia," but I tend to chuck in Four Pillars in the mix there as well because we're one of Australia's most exported spirits, along with Mr. Black, I might add as well. So I don't work for Mr. Black, but I use it in our venues and in our drinks program, and I think it's a great Aussie product. And I think one thing that Martin and I probably spend a lot of our time talking about is how tight knit the Australian spirits industry is.
Oh, I get your bartender magazine every month. I see all. I mean, literally, I'm like, wow, I've never seen it like a market celebrate each other more than the Australian market. It's amazing.
There you go.
Like it's a love fest all the time.
Big time. I mean, Aussies love making drinks, but we sure as shit love drinking them as well. So you go visit your mates and have a great time, and it's a really exciting scene here in Australia. And I know it's a big investment for time and travel, but we encourage people to come visit us. And again, Martin's venues are putting the Australian industry on that global platform very well.
Oh yeah, no, I've only heard. I mean, obviously Philip talks about it because he used to go to Australia back in the day quite often, and I've met a lot of people from there. And I was the last time I was there was 22 years ago. I was there in 2000 for the Olympics. So I worked on the Olympics back in the day, and then I traveled around the country, and I've been dying to go back ever since. So it's definitely on the list of places to go, and I've met many people there in the incredible bar scene. I hear about it all the time. So this is exciting. And also it's exciting to get some of the products over here. Very familiar with Four Pillars Gin. The Shiraz gin is Shiraz, right? It's one of my favorites.
Unreal.
Oh yeah, I've seen it out there and had it at Mother's Room. They do shots of Shiraz Four Pillars gin.
I got to say, Mother's Ruin is probably one of my favorite spots in the Lower East Side. I got to say, and they've named their frozen cocktail machine after an Aussie icon and Kathleen Turner.
Yeah.
Mainly because it turns and chills at the same time. And Jacob Ryan, who actually worked on Four Pillars in NYC for many years, he's an absolute legend bloke, and he had a lot to do with that. So shout out to him.
Oh yeah, no, Jacob's a legend. Jacob definitely is. He's a legend and he definitely is at the bar itself. And obviously, Mr. Black is. Whenever I'm making cocktails, it's if there's an espresso martini being made, that's the espresso liqueur of choice. All right, so you guys did touch upon something that was kind of interesting. I want to hear more about the boxing. So, what was the boxing campaign that happened? Like, just expand a little bit about that.
Let me start. So
yeah.
Originally, Bartenders Boxing or BBO started back in US thanks to Raj Nagra Association, and we just looked from far away. Like I didn't. Okay, I'm not interested in the sports of any kind apart from drinking, and we just looked from far away. I was like, oh, that's cool, and an opportunity came, and it happened in Sydney, I think 2018-19 first round, and then they did the second edition just before pandemic, and lockdown and all of that didn't allow us to train a lot. So it was really just, we were left out there, the selection of bartenders to kind of practice on our own. Of course, no one almost did. Few people did. And then when all the COVID restrictions eased, they were like, cool, you have a 3 months, 12 weeks. The fight is in September during a bar week. The shit's getting real. And basically you have to train a lot. And you have to really look after your body and probably don't drink, eat better, do lots of sprints, and then you're going to fight. And of course, it's very hard if you have a tails of the cocktails in between and the guest shifts and travels. And if you are a BA and working for a gin or a coffee liquor and you have to literally, make drinks and socialize. And then, we made it. We survived. I have to tell and admit that I really respect Jimmy for his dedication. He was only one guy who really, really pushed so much, and I've seen him running all the time. And you look so good, like not like you didn't, but you look like a completely new person.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm assuming I've got you in really good. If you really took it seriously, because I heard about the training regimen, because I really wanted to get into it, but I never did, because I saw some of the women here and they looked lean and mean. So Jim, it worked for you.
Yeah, no, incredible. I have a saying that I watch anything that involves a mouth guard. I adore sports. I grew up playing Aussie rules footy, which is the most confusing thing to anyone that's foreign to Australian sports. And I took I just wanted to kind of I just wanted to do it. I saw it look really fun. A whole bunch of my buddies were doing it. And we took the opportunity with with both hands, so to speak. And I actually just finished training this morning, so I've continued with the gym that we signed up with. And they're a proper hardcore boxing gym. And I feel like they looked at a group of bartenders and brand ambassadors, and they're like, okay, we can push this mob as far as we want to here. And the trainers were great. The sponsors were awesome. And I just want to say a massive thanks to Raj Nagra, because I feel like he also invented the brand ambassador role.
He did.
Think about
He's
it.
one of the people. Yeah.
Because, like you met that cat, 10 years ago, and you're like, what do you do exactly? He's like, well, I'm with Bombay. And he's so well put together, and you're a young, aspiring, budding bartender, and you meet him, and who is this eccentric character that gets to travel the world and spruik juice, so to speak. So he was actually the what was he, Martin? He was the ringmaster on the night. He was on the mic.
He's quite brilliant at it. He's very good at that. And what he did with this whole entire campaign, I was very impressed at what he did. He's the ultimate ringmaster, but just the idea, the concept of it was quite genius. I think it's really
surreal. It's awesome.
People. Yeah.
I want to call a across the Pacific one though. So I reckon for Tails next year we send a couple of Aussies over. What do you reckon, Martin? You want to?
Yeah, I'll be on the bench cheering up for you, mate. But it's been a real eye opener. How discipline and dedication can change your lifestyle and routine, and you feel your body is a bit different, your confidence is different, and I'm really, it's just I highly recommend for anyone to get involved in the sports, and it can be like professional, amateur, or just recreational sport. But as a brand ambassador, it's so important. Like, it doesn't matter if you do yoga or running or, you're just climbing the walls, whatever. So important. So important.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. One thing we talk about a lot in this show is about health and like staying healthy, because it's definitely a role you can become so unbalanced so quickly. Sorry, James. And what were you going to say?
Right. No, I was actually just adding seasoning to that broth. Like, we Martin, no offense, mate, but we're not the youngest guys going around anymore, and you got to start taking care of yourself, because to your point, you could be in different time zones up to three times a week, and it's kind of like the Nutrigrain analogy. You only get out what you put in. So if you're running on fumes 3 days a week, and then you got to change time zones, and you got to be on all the time, like you're representing yourself, and then you're also representing, in our case, we're representing a small spirits market and even smaller brands part of that. And I consider ourselves, we hold some flags for our country when we represent our brands as well. So you got to be on, you got to be sharp. And also people come to experience us. They want to have fun as well. So you got to bring that energy as well. So there
is that expectation of Australians, though. It's like the automatic. There's an Australian in the room. It's gonna be a party. It's gonna happen. That's a lot of pressure.
100%.
Is that right?
Like, people gonna connect more with the brand than you. If they have fun. Like, I respect any other brand, but if you do like 1.5 hour, 2 hours, tasting session, and and this and that, the bartenders might be just like boring, right? I just feel like these days the bartenders or younger generation, like they need something more than just, sitting in the room and tasting. They need something exciting, and especially this socializing part after masterclass, where you make some espresso martinis or martinis as you do now with the trolley around the country. I don't know if you've seen that, but you have an amazing trolley. I love it.
But that's why you do coffee. It's because you can't fall asleep.
That's very true.
You can go to all the masterclasses you want. I'm joking, obviously, but
But I do think you do need to keep it energetic and fun and entertaining. And not everybody can do that. Like it is definitely a special skill to be able to engage the audience, be able to engage the trade, and be confident enough in what you're saying that you can let loose and get them kind of having a little bit of interaction with you. So
yeah, for sure. And it's the same reason why we go to great bars and restaurants. It's not to be told what to do and behave yourself. Obviously, behave yourself, but like there are no rules to it, and you should have fun. You should be engaged, and you should leave and go, that was awesome. What was so and so's name again? They were great, and as long as they remember that experience, that's the main thing.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna get back into our questions because I think
cool. Sorry.
No. This has been some great stuff. This is exactly where I wanted to go. I'm talking to a bunch of Aussies. I never know where the night's going to take us, or your morning. So, all right. So this is where I'm going to get to, give you guys all your kudos. So I'm going to start, James. All right. So I kind of probably took a few things off of all your accolades, but you're named runner-up of the 10th annual Bacardi Legacy Competition, Timeout's Best Bartender, I don't even know what that is, ALIA Bartender of the Year, twice Drinks World Australian Top 25 Bartender, winner of the Angostura Global Cocktail Challenge, which then made you the Global Brand Ambassador for 2 years, and recipient of World Class in a Glass category at Diageo's World Class. So that is a lot of stuff, that to put underneath one person's resume. So I think the biggest thing, because this is something you guys are probably about the 125th brand ambassadors I've interviewed, right? So I've interviewed a lot of brand ambassadors. Yeah. Wow.
We're that far down the list.
No.
You had to start away in Australia.
I'm sorry. You're right. I should have gotten there sooner.
Is it the postcode? Is it the area code? You see +61 and you just hang up.
Exactly. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know why. Maybe I thought you were too cool, like that you wouldn't want to talk to me. I'm gonna go with that.
We just send you invoice afterwards. No worries.
I'm gonna go with that.
He will.
I was too humble to ask. But the one thing, the common theme I've seen, and you guys, both you and Martin both have this, is that some of the most successful brand ambassadors in the world have entered competitions. And so to me, it showcases that this, as a human being, that you have an entrepreneurial mindset, that you are able to manage your going on your life and then do things externally, which as a brand ambassador, you have to manage so many things. So you have to balance a lot of things, but you also need to be an entrepreneur. You need to be out there. You need to be putting yourself out there, building the brand and all that stuff. And I think competitions, if you just enter, just shows that you have some of that ambition to kind of grow. And I've seen it's a common, literally, it's one of the things people ask me all the time, Elaine, what should I look for in brand ambassadors? I'm like, I'll be honest with you. The first number one thing I look for is like, have they entered any competition? You don't have to win, but have you entered like a bunch? Because it just shows that you're a person who's willing to go some extra mile to put yourself out there in the world. So, but tomorrow, James, I'll ask you first, like, why did you enter? Like, what was your motivation to enter?
Frankly, I just wanted the extra days off work. No, I'm joking. Obviously, I'm joking. I just also just on competitions, because I'm obviously, I've entered heaps. But I don't think that entering a bartending competition makes you a better bartender straight off the bat. And I love the point that you made, that it's entrepreneurial, because it definitely is. And also credit to Martin, like he's the busiest man in the world. He also has a coffee cocktail book that just got released as well. So quite the entrepreneur on the call.
One more thing that gets landed onto the thing. We'll get there.
Yeah. But for me, I think the one thing that bartending is a lot like boxing when you think. No, I'm joking. But for me, entering competitions is that you're applying yourself, you're dedicating yourself to obviously allocating the right time, and this is successful competitions. You allocate the time, the effort, and also you balance like your work-life structure around being a successful competitive bartender. And I know we might laugh at the term competitive bartender, but if you wanted to, you could enter 3 of the world's major global cocktail competitions in 1 year as a successful applicant. Mm-hmm. Which is huge, because you look at the kudos, you look at the success of these competitions, you could find yourself in 3 different corners of the globe in 1 year, which for me as a young, aspiring, budding bartender is the best part about entering cocktail competitions. I get to go to, it could be the UK, the US, Australia just hosted. Diageo world-class global finals in Sydney this year, a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, you get to really, for me, I was fortunate enough to see the Caribbean, which is something I've always wanted to do, the States many times, Southeast Asia, which is absolutely awesome. Where else did I go? UK, if I didn't mention that. So, like, for me, that was great as a young bartender. And from there, you get to create connections. It's a great networking platform. I've met some, and also I've met and then seen people succeed greatly from entering cocktail competition. So for me, it's beyond bartending. It's even beyond the bloody cocktail competition itself. And it's a great platform. And I think the ones that do it really well, they're not entering every single one, but they're applying themselves and dedicating themselves to the ones that they really want to enter and do well in.
No, it's great. That's great. That's great advice. Like, you know, don't stretch yourself too thin. Also, what did you learn? Like, going into the competitions, I've heard people say, you know, I've learned that I was a heads down bartender until I competed, and I realized I needed to stick my head up, and I didn't know that about myself. I became a better presenter. I became a little more confident. I don't know. What did you take away from all of it?
In the most Aussiest way possible, someone told me I suffer from resting bitch face.
My husband has that.
Yeah. So, and people were like, just smile. I was like, well, I do smile. Like, I am smiling. And they're like, when we hear you talk, you're completely different to your facial expression. So a really good mentor of mine, his name's Lloyd Katata. He's based in Sydney, Australia. He was like, clench your butt cheeks because it helps your posture. And then push your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And it instantly makes you smile.
Nice.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit.
I'm now doing that. I'm like, but I always smile. So that's very funny.
I'm smiling and I have good posture now. But yeah, look, it's a lot like why we do our.
I mean,
yeah, you know, life's great. Now I've got something to smile about.
Exactly.
But it is that stage persona, which is, I guess, what Loy was talking to, is like for that 8 to 10 minutes that you're on stage making your 2 cocktails, and you know you might have a few shakes and jitters. The whole audience is there watching you compete. And that's why actually I took that into my brand ambassadorial duties as well. It's like you're on for this period of time. If it's an event, if it's a masterclass, if it's a bar takeover, if you're talking to clients, you're on. You own that moment and you do you, but do it in your own way. And that's something that 4 Pillars really encourages: is be yourself, and definitely put your own spin on the facts that we have. So obviously, I'm not saying don't tell lies, but bring your own personality and flair to a gin tasting, for example. And for me, I learned a lot of that from bartending on stage in competitions. For example, Bacardi Legacy was very much a suit and tie affair, whereas Angostura was a bit more tropical, laid back and relaxed. So it's almost like acting a part in a way that you get to kind of bring a different personality to the scene. But for me, I definitely learned that from cocktail competitions, and a lot of those traits, that pre-preparation of cocktail competitions, I took into my day-to-day role with 4 Pillars. So that's writing a schedule. I love ticking lists. I go through notebooks. Like I burn through I'm horrible for the Amazon, the amount of paper I go through, but I write notes and I make sure that I check them off every day. And that really, you know, helps me. And I learned a lot of that through bartending and cocktail competitions.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. It made you more organized because you had to be.
You had to be.
And but you do, as for your career, what do you think it did for your career? I mean, obviously it got you introduced you into the world of being a brand ambassador, in some ways. But do you think, I mean, I've seen it, you know, obviously, you know, it puts you out there in the world. I tell people all the time, they're like, how do I build my personal brand? I'm like, enter a cocktail competition because it will help your career overall. But for you, what did it do for yours?
Yeah, I'd much agree to that. Like the way I looked at, you know, I was lucky enough to make a few of the big dances, and at those big dances, every country, you think they're sending the best of their best, and most of the time they are. Like you get to meet these amazing humans, and they've achieved so much more than I had. So you get to know them. You see them beyond their Instagram profile or their social media presence, and you get to really meet the core person. And for me, there were some really impressive candidates that I saw at the Bacardi Legacy Global Final, and I took a lot of that back with me in regards to, you know, it's preparing to fail or failing to prepare module. And for me, it's that organization. It's making sure that you're taking care of the components that you need to execute. So, for example, later today, I've got a brand presentation into a menu tasting. So I've made sure that I've ticked everything off for that, for example, but I did it all yesterday. So it makes smooth sailing for today.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing that bartending always taught me as well is you don't prepare for the service that you're going into. It's usually the ones after or the week after if you can. And I think that the really good ones are really good at doing that. So that's something I learned from cocktail competitions, and it's that preparedness. Hospitality as an industry isn't a script. There are so many things that can go wrong. Doing cocktail competitions, I've had glassware get destroyed in transport several times, and you have to, So when I went to Mexico City, Sam Bygrave, a friend of mine who was over there writing some notes on it, they all had to carry backup glassware. And believe it or not, on the night of the final, we only had one set of glassware left, and four of us took a kit over. So it's just, it's just knowing what might happen. And I think the best way to do that is ask people who have done it before, people who've earned their stripes. There's a reason why they have. And I think that's really important. And, it's not, like I said, we're making cocktails here and we're having fun as well at the same time. So it's, for me, I learned a lot of that from competitive bartending, is that real kind of like, this is why we're here.
No, that's amazing. That's so much. I think that sums a lot of it up, and just, what you could take away and how everybody gets a different lesson out of it. And then networking, I think, as you said, is such an incredible takeaway. And then if you can pull out the little bits and pieces of it that are just going to help you just grow as a person, that's an incredible thing to walk away with. Martin, I mean, I know I'm going to give you but you entered some competitions as well, right? The coffee competition. So why did you enter?
I mean, I would say it was ego thing. I thought I'm the best in my town or the country. I'll be honest.
I was waiting for the true, like somebody just say, it was just ego. I just want to be like, I was great.
No, because, it's good to be humble and down to earth and all of that. But I feel like that, my reason behind when I was younger bartender, I really wanted to prove myself. I wanted to be like, hey, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, look at the world, I'm here. No one cared, honestly. No one even know where is Slovakia, where I was living back home, So it was sort of like an ego thing, just to prove myself. Am I able, to compare myself with others? Because it's so easy to be in this comfort zone in your own bar, in your own little hometown, and be like, yep, I'm the best. Of course you're not. Of course you're not. You have to go out there and confront yourself with the best from each country on a global stage to be like, all right, maybe I should, settle down a little bit, be more humble and work harder. And that was one of the reasons. Second one, I wanted to travel the world, same as Jimmy. I've been lucky enough, to see countries from Cuba to Australia to US, everywhere. Brands, they having money for those activities. Mm-hmm. They look after you, they fly over, and it's just amazing. So that was the reason why. And the reason why I carry on and continued for especially with coffee cocktail competition for 7 years was because I couldn't win. I was always second or third, and it was so frustrating. So I said, I'll stop when I win.
I forgot. Yeah, it's the bridesmaid analogy, right?
Yeah.
Always the bridesmaid, but it makes you hungry, right? There's a great Aussie rules expression. You've got to lose a grand final to win one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that applies well to cocktail competitions as well. It makes you hungry and it makes you want to, get involved.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's very true. I've heard that about Australians too. Philip, that's the one thing how he describes everybody from Australia. He's like, they're the most competitive motherfuckers out there that you're ever gonna want to see it. And as somebody who's always been a bridesmaid, besides actually being a bride, I totally get it. I was like, I was in top 4 best brand ambassador 4 years in a row back.
Oh, come on!
I've never won. I've never won a thing. So I'm like,
come on.
One day, I'm not gonna win branding because I'm out of the game. But I'm like, all right, one day I'll be on something. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, just gonna hang it up. But I left the game. I was like, I was already out. I was like, I'm done. But I really appreciate that a lot. But you do, yeah, it does give you drive, isn't it, to win. But all right, so Martin, before I actually want to expand on this, but I do want to talk about a little bit of your background. I mean, I know you are originally from Slovakia, and then you went to London. You worked at the Savoy as a head bartender there. I bet you I met you there. I must have, because I was drinking back there back in that time. So we must have met. You have also many awards under your belt. So I'm reading off of this because there's a lot. World Coffee and the World Coffee and Good Spirit Champion 2017, International Bartender of the Year in 2019, 15th of the industry's most influential figures in 2022, Forbes 30 under 40. Jesus, my friend. And what was the thing you just won? What are these? Oh, Best International Brand Ambassador. Woohoo! And this year at Tales in 2022. And you just released a freaking book. Seriously, when you sleep, obviously, this is the best. The fact that you work for a coffee brand is the best thing that's ever happened to you. It just gives you all the you need to do all of these things. I mean, I thought I was ambitious, and I read that. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, like, awards like that obviously don't come easy, right? So they do take a lot of work. What do you believe? There's so many people who obviously would like to follow in either one of your footsteps. So, what do you believe that what are some of the first steps that somebody needs to do to just start even winning some of those awards? Like, what do you think they need to start doing in their careers?
Oof, that's a tough question.
I know.
There is no one formula which gonna works for everyone. It's really, really personal. What really works with me is you need to have a vision, and you need to believe in what you're doing or what you're presenting, that it's right and good or the best. So I never really wanted to be brand ambassador. I'll be honest. I'm a bartender, same as Jimmy. We work in the bars, and that's my job. I never really want to work for brand because I just don't want to be tied up to one brand. And, I just want to work only with something I believe is the best. So when Mr. Black came on the market in 2015 and I tasted back in the Savoy, I was like, whoa, this is good. It's amazing. All right. So I was a big fan of the product, a follower of the product. And then I start work for a product. So you need to believe in that product or a bar you represent, or, in yourself. If you're not sure, about the qualities of the brands you represent, or qualities, of the place or environment you work, then don't do it, change it. Find something what you truly believe. It's so much like you. Put your heart into it. And it was same with Mr. Black and all the bars I work with and working now with. You have to believe in them and believe in yourself that you can positively change something. And
for yourself, I was gonna say, because obviously people got to know you don't win those awards or else people know you exist, right? So you obviously have put yourself out there in the world. So is that some of the things you did, like first steps? As you said, you had a goal. What was your goal? Like, hey, I want to win some of these awards, or your goal is just like, I would just want the world to know me, and like I want to be the best bartender, I want to be the best brand ambassador.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. You're right. When I was representing Slovakia, no one knew where is Slovakia. The other thing is Slovenia, Czechoslovakia, whatever the thing is, Yugoslavia sometimes. It's like no one really knows, when I was back home. And my role or dream was to put Slovakia on the world's map, and then having people like Eric Lorenz, Marian Becker, Alex Kratina, and all these bunch of legends, then you start, putting yourself on the map too, alongside with them. So I knew that I had to stick with the big people like them. That's why I moved to London. That's why I work with Eric at the Savoy, because I knew that thanks to him and people like him, it can really help my name to be out there. So surround yourself with the people who are inspirational. Surround yourself with the people who are already out there. Try to, be in this circle of mentors who can really lift you up. Of course, no one knew who I am. No one knew where I'm coming from. And it only happened when I was at the Savoy. And then after the Savoy, yes, you leave this, historical legacy, incredible place with a white jacket. But for me, it was a new beginning, new challenge, because I didn't want to rely on the past of 130 years old American bar. I want to create my own past, present, and the future. That's why I moved to Australia. And that's an incredible journey, which I think everyone should take. Leave your comfort zone, go out there and work hard. Work hard.
Big time.
Why Australia? Sorry, James. I'm gonna say, why Australia?
Because people like Jimmy, they're so cool. I love people. I love Australia. I mean, no, everyone is so chill. Everyone is so chill. Everyone is so happy and relaxed, and everyone really is friendly. I felt like I just became part of community so quick, and it was incredible. You know, there is no jealousy, there is no bitching around. Everyone is supporting each other. It's such a tight community, and we're not representing ourselves, as Jimmy said, representing Australian flag, this beautiful country. And I just wanted to go here because, of course, coffee, the best coffee in the world, best baristas, the produce, and hey, living next to the beach, you know, few minutes walk or drive, it's not the worst place to be.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good reason to me. James, I'm sorry, you were going to say something, Jimmy.
Oh, I was just going to say, when Martin mentioned that he made the move to Oz, it was like everyone in the industry knew, because, you know, it got broadcasted, and there was like a real sense of pride especially in the Sydney bar scene, because it was like, we're attracting the talents of, you know, obviously Martin Hudak, but, you know, the pedigree of the Savoy as well. And there was that real sense of pride. I reckon that was what, Martino, 2016-ish?
Yeah, 17-ish, 18, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So it was around then, and, you know, we're a developed bar scene by then by far, but it was like a real awesome moment, just to, again, put another feather in your hat there, mate. But I recall it vividly. Yeah.
It does. One of the amazing things that I find so fascinating about Australia is that you guys all really know each other, and you really do support. I mean, America, we do know each other, but it's so big that, you know, it's hard to know all the players. And
it's huge.
Yeah, it really is. So it must be nice to have this really supportive community. All right, so actually, I wanted, because I think this would be really curious for a lot of people to know. But and we're only going to talk about the short bit, but, you know, I am going to step into the COVID world for a minute, because you guys had the strictest lockdowns, you know, not around the world, but pretty freaking strict compared to the United States. You know, I heard all these nightmare stories of people getting stuck out of the country, couldn't get back in, the bars, you know, couldn't open up. So what is business like right now? I mean, you guys are both working in bars, right? And you're both in it. So what is it like? What was it like during, I mean, the 2 years? I mean, were you able to open it all? And then what is it like right now? Martin, you want to start? You say it was shit, and then, like, you know.
No, I think okay, so yes, overall looks horrible. You know, I don't want to talk about COVID and negative things. It was really bad. Okay, I'm gonna focus on positives.
Okay, right? I like
during pandemic, as a business model, being a most awarded international bar, whatever, as maybe Sammy is, we changed the strategy and we focus on the local community, right? And that's where we start winning. We became, you know, we became bar for the local people, which is very important, because during pandemic, local people support you and you're relying on them. And that's where we're starting to change a little bit and thinking, okay, it's amazing to be 50 best and tells the cocktails. Everyone knows you, you know, back in Europe or America. But if you're locals, they don't know about you, you know, what's the point? So we start changing that a little bit as a bar. And what really helped us as well is, you know, because no one can travel, no one can go overseas, lots of investors stay in the country. So we got some investments and we opened 2 more venues during pandemic.
Oh, wow.
We opened Sammy Junior, which is a aperitivo coffee cocktail bar in a city CBD. And we opened Dean and Nancy, our first hotel bar in A-Bites in a hotel. So we actually opened 2 more bars. And then we start doing our own bottle cocktail line, like another bar around the world, doing a bottle cocktails. But rather than being, this is just for solution for pandemic, we knew that this is a new opportunity as a business model. And nowadays, today, as we speak, our bottle cocktails are on the Qantas plane. So when you fly first class, which is not me, but some of the people do, we're serving our bottle cocktails, and we are in the largest liquor distributor store, Dan Murphy's, in the country. And for us, it's #1 business at the moment. So
incredible.
On top of that, I published my own book after 2 years, you know, not being just crying on the sofa or pandemic. Like, let's do fucking something, you know, because I hate to sit on my ass.
I can't imagine you sitting on your ass.
You know, it was bad. It was really bad. But as an outcome, I look back, we did so much as a company. I did so much as an individual, and we did so much as a community. I would never be able to do that if the world is open and we always travel and do everything.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's definitely some positives that you can take out of it. And James, what's your perspective? And also, what is it like right now? Like, is it back 100% or?
Yeah, I kind of wish you let me go first.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, to Martin's point, we started bartender boxing twice during lockdown, to not much avail. No, I'm kidding. A lot like Martin, I opened a bar during lockdown. So Eileen's Bar, which is the Four Pillars expansion site in Sydney. It's named after one of our stills. We opened that on the 8th of June, 2020. So for anyone in Sydney in particular listening would know that that's the first day that the state premier said that we could open. It was under very strict guidelines that you can only have 30 people in your venue at any given time, and they could only be there for 90 minutes. So we looked at our opening hours and we said, well, we can do 3 90-minute sessions a night. And I think my venue staff might get angry at me for saying this. Our venue staff, I should say, sorry. But the bar's never been busier. that opening 4 to 6 weeks, because people didn't know how to go out. We'd only been in lockdown for a few months, but people came in, they're like, cool, what do you got? Got a menu. This is a new cocktail bar. I'm writing an online piece. We're not doing any judging at the moment, but we just need to try everything. And you'd be like, I beg your pardon? And like, yeah, just. So we had a short list of maybe 12 cocktails, and 3 people would have 12 cocktails in front of them and all the snacks and taking photos. And it was quite surreal. And we opened with a very small team as well. And we were busier than a full bar would ever be, because every table's ordering 6 times the amounts they usually would.
Is it because also what time do you have to close? Like here, we had to close. It started like it was 10, and then it was like midnight, and it went back to 10. Like we had very strange.
See, we never in New South Wales, we never had those issues. Victoria, so the home of Four Pillars, had. So Melbourne was the world's most lockdown city, and they had a curfew. They also had what they called the steel curtain, so you couldn't leave a 5-kilometer radius from your address on your driver's license, for example. And then they chucked regional Victoria into that as well. So where Four Pillars is, we're in the beautiful Yarra Valley. 5 kilometers will get you down the road. So it was an interesting time. And to Martin's point, don't want to dwell on the negatives.
No. Fair enough. I don't want to either.
We have a massive casual workforce at our distillery, and also shout out to our distillery. I love those guys. They're a phenomenal part of our team, and they're just getting bigger and better. But unfortunately, during COVID, during this lockdown time, we couldn't keep casuals on board, so we paid forward as much of the casual wages as we could, and then a lot like most Australian distilleries, we made a pivot into bottling hand sanitizer, and we realized we needed a full workforce to bring them back. So we kept everyone on the books, which is amazing. Awesome. And if anything, it made us stronger as a business in that regard. Also, online retail, to Martin's point, was a saving grace, and Australia went through multiple lockdowns, not just one. We were actually teased. We went into lockdown, came out of lockdown, went back into lockdown, came out of lockdown. We got this new vaccine program, and then you had to get a vaccine passport. And if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't go into a venue. And a lot of the time, people were just like, you know what? It's a bit crazy out there. I'm just going to drink at home. I'll just go online to mrblack.com.au or fourpillarsgin.com.au and I'll have it ordered and delivered. And Eileen's Bar turned into a mobile bar service that Stu actually put a Four Pillars decal on the side of his car. He thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And he's driving around the streets of Sydney, and we just ended up calling it Stuba, so Stuba Eats, and he'd drop off your Four Pillars gin bottled cocktails.
Awesome.
So look, for me, no one, touch wood, no one wants to go back to that, but it did have a lot of positives in bringing people together. And as a personal mental note, I was always saying to myself, help people. Obviously, this is a day-to-day thing. Help people as much as possible. But in the back of my mind, I was like, and this is like the real Australian in me coming out. We call it tall poppy syndrome, but I was like, people are really going to remember how you behaved during lockdown. And And I was like, I'm going to be the best person of myself as I could. And I think a lot of people came out, and especially in Sydney and in Melbourne, and I should just say Australia wide, sorry, but because actually some parts of the country weren't. Perth in Western Australia open. People could go out and about. They weren't as locked down as the rest of the country. So
they're the Miami of America. I used to tell people, like, they're like, I haven't got COVID yet. I'm like, just go to Florida. You'll come back.
There you go. Yeah.
It's like
you'll get it. Yeah, you'll get it.
And they're like, you're right. I went and I got COVID. I'm like, then you're done. Just check it off the box now.
But yeah, so WA was open free and easy. But to Sydney and Melbourne in particular that were locked down quite heavily, you saw those bar communities really helping each other out. And on a side note, brands helping those bars help each other out as well, which is great. So great initiatives came from it. A lot of advocacy, and like a lot of anthropological work that probably won't come out in the wash, but it's great to see that investment.
Absolutely. And now you guys, I mean, are you back? Like, are people back in the bars? Like here in New York,
we're back, baby. Back. We're back.
Yeah. It's so busy. Oh my God. It's like,
hey, can I just say, does anyone wants a job in Australia? Mr. Black will pay for your flights and you come work at 4 Pillars. How does that sound, eh?
And New York City, they need to staff as
maybe
well.
Sammy.
Yeah, exactly. Are you guys short-staffed as well? Because we're really short-staffed.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Australia always had in its advantage what we call the working travel visa. And it was a golden ticket for anyone that wanted to come to Martin's Point, get great coffee, live by the beach, work a few nights a week, get paid. We pay well in this country. And then, see a bit of the world that they probably hadn't already. And that's like the real bartender's passport, isn't it? Like, you learn one skill set, and it might be in mils or ounces. It doesn't matter. It's still a skill set, and you can take that around the world, which I feel like I've just taken a job with Tourism Australia right now. But if anyone is listening and wants a job, please come down under. We need you. We want you.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially bars like Jimmy's Bar, you can learn so much about local produce, because what I like about you celebrating Australian flora and fauna and produce, and it's incredible. Like all your cocktails are all about, native plants and botanicals and fruits and local farmers and producers. So every time I visit your bar, and I don't tell you that because I don't need the free drinks, but, every time I'm there, I'm mesmerized and amazed by amount of products in each drink. And it might look like a glass of water, but it's one of the best, drink I ever had.
Thank you, mate. So
definitely there are bars here in this country which can offer so much for people who want to learn, especially about Australia and country itself. And there are people like, like Jimmy and 4 Pillars who really pioneering this modern mixology approach, which is approachable, which is not too nerdy and snobby, and you feel like, oh, I'm not gonna order this, but you feel like, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna have 12 of those.
So you're making crushable drinks that are very interesting and lots of ingredients.
Well,
what's the name of the bar, Jimmy?
So it's the 4 Pillars Lab, and the bar's called the bar's called Eileen's Bar. We were sitting around during the opening stage, and we were like, cool, we get it. It's a lab. There's some equipment and techniques being used, blah, blah, blah. But we're like, a bar needs a name, like I'm going to maybe Sammy, and you know exactly where you're going. And we have a still on site that we make gin on maybe once a fortnight. And we'll just call it Eileen, because we name all of our stills after a mum of the business. Mm-hmm. So that's Matt Jones's mum. So she has a still and a bar named after her. So she's pretty cool. Pretty cool chick. Yeah.
I'd like the honor one day. All right, we're gonna get back into a little bit of brand ambassadorship. So let's talk about this. So you guys both have this going on.
I can see why we were 125th, because all we've done is talked about cocktails and bartending and not too much.
This has been freaking brilliant. Everything has been amazing. No, it really has been. It's my job just to bring you back. That's what my job is. I'm enjoying the rest of the conversation.
Back.
Exactly. I can just sit here and just drink and hang out with you guys for like hours. So I'd be very happy with that. Got to get the people what they want. So probably us hanging out might not be all of that. But all right. So, I realize I put this question towards Martin, but I realize, Jimmy, you have the same problems, right? Like you're balancing being brand ambassadors, right? And then you're also like, I'll start with you, Martin. You're also the co-founder of the very successful Maybe Sammy, and also now 2 other bars. So how do you do that? Like, what is the balancing act there? Like, how often are you on the road for Mr. Black? Like, what's that look like?
Okay, so first of all, never trust whatever you see on social media, okay?
That's true.
I want to clarify that, because
But follow me. Follow me. Yeah.
I just want to get more followers than Colin Apia, you know, or any other legend out there. No, never trust whatever you see on social media, okay? Most of the times it's not real reflection of reality, okay? There are so many people out there, including myself in the past, and I'm trying to be better, who pretend to be busy, right? Because being busy is cool, right? Oh, I'm busy. I'm the busiest guy on earth. What I changed in my mindset is I don't want to be busy. I want to be productive. For me, productivity is more important than just being a busy. Now, productivity coming out of the great team and people you surround yourself. And that's what I told you in the beginning. Surround yourself with the people you can grow and help you be better, right? So whatever you see, it's not me. You know, Mr. Black, it's not me. It's the people in distillery. It's our marketing team. It's the founders, graphic designers. It's other BAs in US, Asia. You know, it's not just me. Whatever you see as Maybe Sammy and our whole group where we, winning the world's awards and traveling, it's not me. It's the whole team and mechanism. I wouldn't be able to leave this country if I don't have one of the best bar manager, best back of house, etc. So me being able and being the lucky bastard who travels around the world for someone else's money and being able to travel and discover the beautiful world, it's just being lucky to have incredible people back home. So if you want to be out there, you need to make sure you start with your own porch, start with in your backyard, make sure that the grounds are here solid, which allows you to leave, and then you can trust them. So it's starting from here.
I love that. That is such great advice, because you're right. It's much better. You should not just be busy. You should be productive. That is very true. A lot of us get caught up in the busy work, and then it's like, no, but you didn't accomplish anything. Being productive isn't it? And that being a solid base so you can leave is such great advice. Jimmy, how about you? So how do you balance the two?
Yeah, to Martin's
you have like a
point,
full-time job. I thought like being creative, that's like, it seems like a really like full-time. You have to go to an office, like.
Yeah, no, there's that side to it as well. But to Martin's point, you've got to win at home before you win away. My role is incredibly dynamic at 4 Pillars. It's across obviously hospitality, but then there's also brand, creative, and to a very small degree when it comes to like large scale cocktail production. And that feels like you need a clone at some point. So you're getting pulled from different directions, and a lot of it does come down to what we spoke about earlier. Surround yourself with great people, and I feel like everyone I work closely with is an absolute champion, which is great, and it makes it a lot easier. And I think it's having that clear precedent of your role, your responsibilities, and making sure that you're doing that. So there's a lot of trust amongst our team. So everyone makes sure that they're ticking those boxes, and it's a lot like a champion footy team. If everyone does their role, you're going to succeed as a team. To that as well, the whole point about being productive over busy, I love. Like I'm gonna steal that for every conversation that I have moving forward. But it's such an important thing to make sure that you're using your time effectively and efficiently. So for me, it'll be based out in regards to time and trade, time with the brand team, and then time with hospitality and actual service as well. So unfortunately, and I'm sure Martin can agree to this, you can't do everything at once. Or you can't do everything greatly at once. So that balancing act is about making sure that and for me, I don't know if it's the same with you, Martin. For me, it took a lot of letting go. Like personally, I had to let go of things that I love doing, and it was drink making, and it was that creative process, and it was spending. Another positive thing about lockdown was I got to focus purely on drinks for a long period of time, and I love that. I adore that. And for me, letting that go and then seeing the younger kids in our business gravitating towards that. And I could see myself in them, not to sound like a complete wanker, but I could see a lot of the things that I loved about where I am today. So it's quite encouraging to see that. And the one thing that, if my parents are listening to this, this is going to be hilarious. But the one thing I love about our industry is ruining uni degrees or college degrees, because people go, oh, you know what, I'm not going to be, an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor. Hopefully, the world needs more doctors. You know what I mean? But them finding this passion in an industry that isn't, tertiary educated, supported in any way. It's all about finding that passion, and I think all the great ones do. Sorry, where are we going with this?
No, I'll take you back. No, you were talking about trying to find the balance and working on the things. And I think you're making some great points about letting things go, because it is hard. I think all three of us are very ambitious people, have a lot of, you guys don't know, but I'm constantly working on 17. I was constantly working on 17 different projects at once, because I have a lot of passions and things I really want to do and put out there in the world. And you can get caught up in that, and it does take your focus off. And I had a woman who's extremely successful, just say to me the other day, she's like, just stop doing everything else. Like, just focus on, this is your dream. Like my brand ambassador academy, I have a training academy for brand ambassadors. She said, that's it. She's like, it's an incredible thing. She's like, stop doing everything else. Like, this is obviously not this, but everything else. She's like, because it's related, but and she's like, Elaine, you need to dedicate your time to this. You need to dedicate it. And you can have your other side, but like, it's never going to go where you want it to go if you don't focus on the thing that really matters. Like the thing you focus on most grows, right?
And Elaine, did that worked for you personally? Like that was the moment where everything clicked, right? Like
it did. I mean, I already knew that, but I needed her to tell me that, because I was actually looking to do like a project for her. I was looking to do a project with her because she worked on this really incredible brand, and I really liked her as a person. I wanted to work with her.
You're going to add more to your work? No, you can't do that. What do you know? You were looking to add more. Man, bring it back. Wheel it in. One thing I learned.
Like, no, I'm not hiring you. Yeah, because you
woo
need
up.
to just
woo up. Yeah. But I tend to find that's where you find the best in yourself as well. It really is when you're focusing and everything's humming and everything's clicking, and it's just like, this is yibbity yabbada. That is perfect. That is exactly what you want. Giddy up. So for me, it's a really good personal feeling as well. Just to be greedy, it's a really good personal feeling when everything clicks and you're focused and you're driven. And the other stuff you can always do. You can always do more later. You can always add more later.
You absolutely can. I mean, Martin, you guys, I mean, I think we all still balancing a bunch of different things like books and
shit, yeah.
Yeah, you got all that stuff. We all are. We can all say we're doing this, but it's still good to have one focus that we do spend a lot of our time on, like at least 70% or 60% of our time on. All right, guys, I know we're kind of getting over an hour here, so I want to kind of I had a question here, James. Oh, 4 Pillars Gin. All right, so let's talk a little bit. We're going back to the heart of Australia here, because gin is so big in Australia. How does 4 Pillars, stand out amongst all the competition? Like, what is like the number one selling classic gin cocktail? Like, what is the gin market like right now in Australia?
They have amazing brand ambassador. That's why.
That's it. That's just it. Him and Stu. That's all it takes, and it's gonna be the number one brand out there.
Well, to Martin's point, whenever we employ someone at 4 Pillars, we say you're a brand ambassador. It's at the end of the conversation. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you represent the brand on every level as much as anyone else does, right? So, please come to the Yarra Valley, please come to Hillsville, visit the team, and it makes you feel like, I live in Sydney, which is beautiful, but it's a bit bigger and busier, and it makes you feel so bad about yourself because you're not the loveliest human in the world, because everyone down there is just so nice, and so they're so giving with their time and experience, and you got to go check it out. But I think that gravitates that everyone is a BA in their own right. The Aussie gin market is internally, there's a great I saw it on a T-shirt during Sydney Bar Week at the Australian Indie Spirits tasting, and it read, "Oh, another fucking Australian gin, another fucking Aussie gin," and that rings some truth to it. So there are over 300 active distilleries in Australia now, and there are 946 Aussie gins on the market.
Wow.
Which is huge. 10 years ago, there was probably a dozen, less than, let's call it six brands and a dozen gins. And at that point in time, Cameron, Matt, and Stu, they looked at the opportunity and they said, we want to be part of that mix and see how we go. And we'd love to be like these great brands, MGC, West Winds. And at the time, that was their goal. And since then, we've been very fortunate. We make gin because we love gin. We only make gin. We don't make a vodka or a whiskey or a brandy or a rum on the side. It purely is a gin operation. But for us, the celebration of gin in Australia can be so much more than a gin and tonic, for example. And we love gin and tonics, don't get me wrong. But for us, to Martin's point that he made earlier, we have access to over 6,500 Indigenous ingredients that you can't find anywhere else in the world.
Wow.
So the flavor palette in Australia is unique like no other. There's nothing like Australia distilled. And for us, the craft gin scene then leads into the craft cocktail scene. And for us, we consider everything we do based around the craft of making great gin and great gin drinks. So that's our philosophy. And we've been lucky enough to expand abroad and showcase that in international markets as well, which is so exciting. I remember I took Australian ginger, to Southeast Asia, and I was like, oh, this mob have a taste for things that are quite spicy, but Australian ginger is almost considered a chili. We call it flaming ginger, and whereas Southeast Asia is more accustomed to galangal or rose ginger, it's quite floral and fragrant. And I put this in front of them, and they started coughing, and I was like, and then one of the bartenders says, "Oh, why do they call it flaming ginger?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a bit like the people. It's a bit aggressive and hot."
Love it.
But for us, it's about that experience, and the beautiful thing about our job is we do get to travel abroad and showcase that. And for us at Four Pillars, the values are quite simple. We love what we do, and we love showing that to people. And the Aussie gin market is, a lot of people see it as booming, and it definitely is. It's incredibly strong, but the category of growth is still there, massively. We haven't even hit the.
So I was gonna say, so the bars in Australia, would they primarily carry Australia, since there's so many gins there? I mean, granted, America, we have so many gins here too. Would it be mostly Australian gins because you guys, or
there are some bars that purely focus on local spirits, which is great. Australia has second to none the worst booze tax laws in the world. So the tax man takes about sometimes up to $45 a bottle in tax, which then goes onto the bar operator, which then goes onto your cost of goods, which then goes onto your consumer, and the same thing in packaged retail. So to drink local, like I can buy Four Pillars Rare Dry Gin cheaper in Los Angeles than I can in Australia.
Wow.
And they're a bigger bottle over there as well. You guys use 750 mils, where we're 700s, right? So that's an example, but that's just tax. But there are great bars at Hero and Champion Australian produce and ingredients. But you'll tend to find, we've been very fortunate to partner with great bars, Sammy Jr., for example, and Martin's cocktail program, where brands can work their way into a back bar, into a signature serve. And for me, I love cocktails, so I love to see that. Whereas if you go to larger format bars, it's more of what we call a back bar arrangement. So you'll definitely see Aussie spirits featured, championed, heroed, in whatever form or case. But the Aussie gin market is, you ain't seen nothing yet. There'll be more coming. In a big way as well. And we've got great Australian brands that aren't necessarily, I love Four Pillars Gin, but there are great Aussie producers. You've got Never Kangaroo Island Spirits, Archie Rose here in Sydney, and they're all doing an amazing job. And you can see it's kind of like approaching the brand ambassadorial work. They're putting in the hard work, they're putting in the hard yards, and you can see it's not a short-term investment. They're really investing for the long term and the growth of Aussie spirits, which is something that I couldn't be prouder of. And Martin, you guys have just gone through a massive stage of renos and growth as well up in the Sunny Coast.
Yeah. So Mr. Black as well, we considering it's the only one coffee liqueur or cold brew coffee liqueur, back in time, 2013. There were no boundaries, no rules. We could do really what we know how to do the best. So coming from little distillery in Central Coast, Distillery Botanica, where master distiller Philip Moore was doing local liqueurs. And as you said, back in time, 10, 15 years ago, there were just few master distillers. Coming from there, now having own distillery, on brewery and roastery, it's just incredible to see how small we were and how big we can be. And it's just incredible. I'm just so proud. And to be the number one coffee liqueur, it's just amazing.
That's incredible. And definitely Australia, I know, is known for its coffee. All right. Which you guys both have exciting things that are happening within the worlds of Australia. Now we just all have to go back to Australia and get over there.
Come on down.
I wish I could, but it's on the list. It's like Philip and I, the next 2 years, got to make it to Australia. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up, and I always wrap it up with, I could talk to you two all night long, but I do have to wrap it up, and so you guys can get on with your day. Mine with my evening. All right. So the two last questions I always like to end with are, the first one is, what advice would you give to someone looking to hire a brand ambassador? Like, it could be from like what type of person or how they manage the person. Yeah.
Tough one.
Is that a hard one? Yeah. Like,
I just want to say actually, I'm going to say what I want to say.
Be transparent with your budgets, like, what the job is. I don't know. What would you give? Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I would. The one thing I would say is, and this is an ethos that we have company wide, is transparency. Be transparent with roles, responsibilities, KPIs, and the one thing that I think a lot of bartenders don't. And I'm not. The last hour, we love bars and we love bartenders, but a lot of time bartenders want to make that next step. It is that progress in your career path. So you're going to have to step up your game. In regards to self-organization, self-preparedness and awareness. And a lot of the time a lot of things I learned was the time that you spend alone as a BA, in regards to, you're not surrounded by up to 12 people in a bar team anymore. You're out there, you're isolated, and you've got to work within the industry in your own way and form. So that would be the one things I would always be, is that transparency from the hiring company.
Yeah, no, you answered both the questions. So you gave advice to the brand ambassador and to the person hiring. So well done. You combined the two questions in one, because that was the next question. So I love it.
All right.
Transparency is definitely a big one. I'm really a big fan of that. Martin, you?
For me, let's say if I would have to hire another brand ambassador, and if I would have to retire for any reason, which I won't ever. But advice for any brand looking for a brand ambassador is, I would say, hire someone who is very well rooted within the industry, within the community, who is a nice person, has a great personality, and is just a lovable person. Like here in Australia, there is the quote, just don't be a dick, right? Like, be a nice person. And I'm seeing BAs being more successful when they are, like these community bartenders, going to every bar, knowing everybody, helping here and there, doing so many things. So I wouldn't necessarily hire someone with the best knowledge about the product or the best mixology skills or best stage present, but I would hire someone who is just amazing, lovable, bubbly human being, because that's what wins the accounts. That's what wins for your brand to be on the shelf. Be a nice person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is great advice. So is that your advice to, brand ambassadors, like future people want to be brand ambassadors? Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my number one advice.
Just be nice, go out, socialize, be friendly with everyone, and try to don't have any beefs, just, be that positive person, have this great persona. And then, the brand's going to see you being like, oh, wow, she or he is amazing. Like, we want to be so close to that person. Let's bring her on board. That's so important.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
I think that's all really great advice. Well, gentlemen, this has been really great. Thank you so much for taking time to speak to me in your morning and my evening. I think people are going to love this. This is a lot of fun. You did not let down any Australians. You brought the fun. So you represented
Oi.
hard. Yeah, you did all the things. So thank you so much. And I hopefully, is anybody going to BCB?
Yep.
Yeah.
He is
All right.
there.
We'll see. I'll see you at PCB then.
And go, we're coming.
Yeah.
Yep. I want a shot of some shots, guys. Send it my way. We can the world's longest boomerang. It'll be good.
Oh, really? Is that happening?
Right, we can do that. Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's make it happen. I like it. Let's make it happen. I like that. Sorry, just caught on. All right, guys. Thanks again, and thank you all for those of you going to watch this later on. Thank you so much for tuning in. But I'll let you know when it's going to be live.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Have a great